If you've been running your business for any amount of time, you will no doubt have been told that you need automations if you want to scale. Everyone tells you that you need to set up automations, but no one actually shows you how to do that. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how we save over 50,000 tasks every single month just by automating them. We don't pay staff for them. I don't have to do them myself. In fact, I don't even need to think about it. And I have automations running in my business that I set up over 4 years ago that just run on autopilot every single day, saving me time and ultimately saving me money, but not just saving me, but making me more money. When we look at automations, they're not just there in order to save us time, but they're also there in order to do things that we wouldn't be able to do normally and make us more money in return. In this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly how you can use a handful of different softwares to win you back a ridiculous amount of time and ultimately cost you next to nothing to run every single day, so you can set up tasks, automate it once and forget about it forever. Now, the first software that you need to use if you want to save a ridiculous amount of time is Zapier. What Zapier allows you to do is connect multiple different softwares together without code, just simple plug and play steps and automate certain tasks. For example, what we can do is we can say, when this action happens, automate these steps. For example, when we have a new customer in Stripe, add them to this email list, send this email, create this task for our team to do. In Zapier, you can have a free account, and that free account allows you to have 2 steps in an automation. For example, when this happens, do this. And you can then automate 100 tasks. So essentially, when this happens, do this. You can automate that 50 times a month for free. It's a great place to start to learn the platform, to set up simple Zapier automations that then win you back time. Once you start using more than that, you can actually then choose to pay for Zapier and automate and essentially up to 100 steps in an automation and up to hundreds of thousands of tasks every month. Now, when we're inside Zapier, we can create what's called a Zap. It's essentially just a sequence of steps that automate certain things. Inside Zapier, what we can do is we can have our trigger at the top and then our actions after that. So our trigger, the way this works out is when this happens, it triggers the automation. And I think a lot of people, they struggle to realize and sort of understand what that means. So I'm going to explain that. A trigger, we can set an action such as when, let's say we chose Stripe, in Stripe, when there is a new customer, for example. So we've got the software that we select, and then we select what that trigger event is. So here you can see that in Stripe, we can choose when a subscription gets canceled, when someone checks out, when a payment fails, when an invoice payment fails, when there's new customers, new charges, new disputes. Every different software that you select in here. So let's go change. We can search for any software. You can see over 7,000 different softwares. We can select one of those softwares, and every software then has a different event that we can choose. So let's say we chose new customer. We can click select and we can then connect to our Stripe account. That then connects your Stripe account to Zapier. What that will then mean is when you turn this automation on, every single time you have a new customer in Stripe, it will automatically trigger this automation. You don't need to tell Zapier, go trigger this automation. It will happen automatically just by you adding a customer in Stripe. For example, if you went into Stripe and clicked new customer, created a customer, that would trigger this. If someone signed up through a payment link, that would trigger this. Once you connect your account, you can go continue, and then it will pull through a couple recent new customers. As an example, it will tell you their name, it will tell you the amount they signed up for, their email, their phone number, their address, all of the data that you need. What we can then do though is we can set a series of actions after Stripe down here. We can click action, then we can select another software. You can select Stripe again if you want to select Stripe. You can select sending an email if you want to send an email. You could select your email software such as Active Campaign and select Active Campaign. Whatever the action is that you want, let's say we want Active Campaign, we then choose the action again. Click here. What is it that we want to happen when the new customer is added in Stripe? For example, do we want to add or remove a tag from them? Do we want to create a new campaign? Do we want to update them in Active Campaign? What is the step that we want to happen? What we can then do though is we can then keep continuing on and adding more and more steps as we go. What this then means though is we can build out a whole sequence of essentially automations that will automate step by step lots of different tasks. I'll show you an example of this in action in a minute, which we use for our onboarding process, and you'll see that every single task that we take is automated. A lot of business owners are doing a lot more than they need to, and I think it's because they're not really sure what they can automate. So the best way to sort of get around this is every single time that you perform a task more than twice, write it down. When you perform it more than twice, write down all of the steps that you take. Then each of these actions inside a workflow would equate to one of those steps. So if when you sign up a customer, you add them into ActiveCampaign, that's your step. If you then send them an email, that's a step. If you then send them a text message, that's a step. All of those steps can then essentially be automated step by step by step. So here's an example of an onboarding automation in play that we use to automate one of our 2 programs. Now, the way that this works is we have a payment link set up inside our CRM software, Systemized to Scale. The way that the majority of platforms out there, if you use our CRM software, if you use a software like ClickFunnels or Thrivecart, essentially anything that you create payment links through, generally it will connect to your payment processor like Stripe. So what we then have is we have an automation set up that I'll show you in a minute inside our platform, Systemized to Scale, that will then send out a welcome email as soon as people pay. It will send out a welcome email, including the next steps. What we then also do though is we trigger inside Zapier when there's a new subscription. So when someone signs up with us and they sign up to a subscription, that will trigger the welcome email inside our CRM software, but it will then also trigger this Zapier automation. Because all of the money goes through Stripe, so we can just trigger when that subscription happens. We then filter down here based off the price point. We have lots of different subscriptions happening in the business, and we only want this onboarding automation to happen when people sign up to a certain price point. So that's when this filter is. This filter then filters when the price is a certain amount. What that then means is it will only then continue when a new subscription equates to a certain amount of money. What we then do is we have a spreadsheet set up that we track all of our sales calls on. These sales calls, when they get booked, they get added to a spreadsheet. When a sale happens, the system will then look up the row on that spreadsheet based off the email. It will find that lead on the spreadsheet with their email, and then it will update them to tell us that they've converted and the amount that they've converted for. What we then do down here is we want to figure out the exact date that it is on the time that they sign up, because we use this for tracking purposes. In Zapier, you'll see that you can add essentially a piece of code that will then get you the current time. What that will then do is it will tell us what the current time and date is right now, and then it will create them a board on our Monday board. What we use from a sort of internal management system is monday.com. It's an incredible software internally for managing different tasks, different roles, and different clients. So every single client that comes on board with us, we have a Monday board for them where everything is noted down. So from a company perspective, everyone always knows what's happening with every single client, regardless if they've been working on that client or not. If a staff member leaves us, if they're ill, if they're not here for a period of time, they need to transfer workload, it's then very easy for us to see from a company perspective where everything is and who's handling what. Then we delete a certain series of groups from their board. We have a template Monday board. We duplicate the Monday board, but on that template board, depending on what program they sign up for, there's things that we need on it and there's things that we don't. So we then just delete off the ones that we don't. What we then do is we update them inside our CRM software, which links into Lead Connector. So any step you see Lead Connector is essentially our CRM software. And what we do is we just have a tagging system here to then tag them to trigger certain WhatsApp sequences off the back of that, because we found the biggest thing when people sign up is the speed to implementation. If when people sign up, you're then waiting days and weeks for them to implement, their results will take longer. When their results take longer, their retention is slower and they achieve less and they stay longer. So what we want to do is we found getting to them the quickest always obviously results in the quickest outcome. So instead of just going email, we go WhatsApp as well to make sure that they're clarified and they're sure on the next steps, and then we're in play from there. And having that combination of WhatsApp and email has worked incredibly well for us from an LTV perspective, a retention perspective. And what it also means is then from an internal point of view, we're not chasing clients as much because the automations are doing that for us. When clients then reply, we then go back and forth as a human handling that. Then we have a date formatter again, because what we do is when a new client comes on board, we create an item with a series of steps, an SOP, a standard operating practice that a staff member has to follow to onboard that client. And then the reason we have this is you'll see here that it's essentially a formula to add 2 days. So what it then means is when someone signs up, it adds 2 days onto their sign up day. And it means that their onboarding needs to be finalized within that period of time. And then essentially making sure that the client's ready to use the platform from there. What we then do is we have a series of steps down here, which create a date, which is the next Monday, the next Tuesday, and the next Thursday. We run weekly calls as part of the program where clients jump on and they ask questions, and we run them on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. So what we then do is based off the day that they sign up, the system will then essentially calculate what the next Monday is, what the next Tuesday is, and next Thursday is. It will then create a Google Calendar invite and share that to the client as a recurring event. So they have that in their calendar every single week, so that then they essentially make sure that they show up to those calls, because the more they show up, the more value that they take from the program. And the biggest thing that we found, instead of just having that in the program and saying that we have these calls, actually sending a calendar invite, the uptake to them is significantly higher. So then what we do is we basically have a yearly and a monthly option. So based off which package they sign up for, we then trigger off the back of this a certain notification into Slack, so then internally we know exactly where clients are coming from and what packages they're signing up to. So from a team perspective, when we're signing up people, we're not having to then tell different team members that so-and-so signed up. The system's just doing that for us, then it's easy to manage it across the board. Now, the next place where we build automations is inside our own CRM software that replaces pretty much everything in your business from a software perspective, runs it all through here for a fraction of the cost. And what we do is everything's then plug and play. So inside automations, the same principle applies in terms of having the workflow that leads work through, that contacts work through. So for example, if we clicked into sales, you'll then see that we have a certain follow-up sequence for when people say apply to work with us. If we click into here, you'll then see the whole goal of this is when someone fills out an application form, if they haven't booked in their call, we then have a series of follow-up messages. It's all these little things in your business. If you're doing them manually, you are creating more workload for yourself than there needs to be. Instead, these automations, what they do is when a lead comes in, if they haven't booked their call, it will update them on a pipeline. It will tag them so we know where they've come from. It will notify the team internally. It will save all of their answers to their contact profile. And then 10 minutes later, it will follow up. If they still haven't booked the call, 4 hours later, it will follow up again. 10 hours later, follow up again. 3 days again, 4 days again, 2 days. And it's all these steps that when you're running things at scale, it's physically impossible to do that manually if you're trying to run a business at scale. If you have a couple leads, okay, maybe. But the minute that you have 10, 20, 30 plus leads, it is impossible to do that yourself, and it's impossible to do that to a good level. And that's where so many business owners, they essentially have a leaky bucket where they're saying that they have a lead problem. They're trying to put more leads in, but leads are just trickling out. Most businesses don't have a lead problem. They have a problem with their systems, and simple processes like this with Zapier, with a CRM software, will allow you to automate your business and save a ridiculous amount of time. So if I was a business owner in a position where I didn't have enough time in the day and I wanted to clone myself to get more done, the first thing that I would do would be to write down every single task that I'm doing more than once. What I would then do next to each task is I would write out all of the steps that I'm taking to try and essentially action that task. What I would then do is I would try and turn this into an automation in a software like Zapier or a CRM software, going through each step that I'm taking manually and creating an action for that in the workflow. That would then allow me to set up an automation once, and then every single time that task happens, it will happen automatically without me lifting a finger. After that, if I can't automate it, I would look at eliminating that task. Is it really a task that needs to happen from an admin perspective or from moving your revenue forwards or your retention forwards? If not, get rid of it. You don't need to do it. Then lastly, if you do need that task to happen, I would look at delegating that task. If you can't automate it, you can't eliminate it, delegate it. Go onto a software like Upwork, pay a freelancer, create an SOP for them to follow a standard way of operating a task, which means that things are consistently done to the same level. Once you've done that, you're able to offload tasks off your plate and allow you as a business owner to enjoy all of the fruits of your labor and build a business that can grow without you. If you follow that AED principle, you will build a business that is insanely scalable and allow you to scale far quicker than all of your competitors.